It's time for us to disagree, and I have a feeling we're going to do a lot of disagreeing tonight, Daryl, because, well, it's bracketology time. Who needs Joel and Artie, you know?
I disagree that we'll disagree.
I'm confused. Let's pick the NIT right now. I take Syracuse. Okay, no one cares. Okay.
Yeah. And give me the UConn women.
I was going to say let's talk about that, but what's the point? we both know who's going to win that.
I was going to say, you get your choice. You can take the UConn women
or the field. And I would go UConn women all the time. I mean, come on. Seriously? They're ridiculous. Untouchable.
Just like your mother.
Lay off. All right, and my big upset pick for the NIT tournament, South Dakota over Iowa. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't know.
You
but
just want it to.
Do I hope it happens? Yes,
Yeah.
because I can't stand Iowa. That's about the only school I can't really stand, to be honest with you. Duke, North Carolina. I like North Carolina. Don't like Roy Williams, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, let's get back to the big boy tournament.
All righty, Daryl. It is time for the big boy tournament here on Disagree to Disagree, brought to you by 1UP USA. It's 1UP-USA.com. They got a bunch of new apparel now, Daryl. If you've checked their website out and seen some of their apparel, but man, they got some great apparel to go along with the bike racks, bike trainers, and all that other fun stuff. They got a lot of great new apparel as well. They got socks. I mean, they got pretty cool socks. So, anyways, let's go into the bracket. Where do you want to start, Daryl?
Well, if you go to our Disagree to Disagree Facebook page and you find the link there for the tournament bracket or tournament challenge, in the upper left-hand corner is where they have the East bracket.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start there and work our way around.
And password for that, you click on the link. Password is Disagree with a capital D.
Capital D. This is the fun bracket because as Badger homers, we get to see how far we push Wisconsin. But we'll just kind of go right down the line there. I've got Nova winning.
Yeah, Villanova 31-3. They're going to take on the winner of Mount St. Mary's in New Orleans. And if a 16 seed wins, it's not going to be against Villanova. I'll tell you that too. I know, Daryl, we're on agreement there. This game's in Buffalo. That he played in Buffalo, and who knows if they're going to be postponements or anything like that with the weather they're having out there. I know the Syracuse game in the NIT got postponed for tonight.
Yeah, I know they're still battling that anywhere from 18 to 24 inches of snow blast in the East Coast. But we both have Nova in that one.
Mm-hmm.
The winner of that game will take on either Wisconsin or Virginia Tech. I've got the Badgers winning this one.
Yeah, the Badgers coming in at 25-9, Virginia Tech 22-10. Now, you look at the Big Ten tournament, it was a tale of two teams, and that's just the Badgers.
That's true.
Because you look at the Indiana game, they played okay, and then they played against Northwestern, and they just, wow, what was that team? I mean, that's a team we haven't seen since January, honestly, but then they were back to normal against Michigan in the finals on Sunday. I still got to go the Badgers. I'm not a huge Virginia Tech fan. I'm not a Buzz Williams fan. It's, of course, everybody knows he coached at Marquette, and who knows if they're recruiting violations or what he did to get some of those players that the Badgers couldn't get. The Badgers got the strict grades and all that crap. But game played in Buffalo as well, so I take the Badgers in that one. And I think they'll win pretty easily against Virginia Tech.
I think the toughest thing for Wisconsin, it's the same thing a lot of their opponents do all years. If they push tempo, that's gonna throw off Wisconsin.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my buddies today, and we were talking about who you get in the Final Four and all this, and then we were talking about the Badgers, and the Badgers are a team that could beat Villanova, but they're also a team that could lose to Virginia Tech.
Right, so, we don't know which one of them is going to show.
Yeah, and that's what it is. The Badgers do have the potential to be a top Final Four team, but I don't see it this year, but we'll get into that later on here in the bracket. And now we'll move on to Virginia versus UNC Wilmington. And that game's going to be in Orlando. Virginia coming in at 22-10. UNC Wilmington coming in at 29-5. Daryl, it's that 12-5 matchup. Everybody likes to pick the upset in this one. What about you?
I did pick a couple of them, but in this one I've got the Cavaliers. Virginia moving on.
Yeah, I do too. I think that they're well coached, solid defense. I got Virginia in this one as well. Next game in Orlando is number 4 Florida, 24-8 on the year, and number 13 East Tennessee State. 27-7. If you haven't heard of East Tennessee State, contact Kyle Cooper. He'll let you know.
Yeah, he'll let you know. I'm going to go with the Gators on this one. It's in Orlando, not that far from home again. State game for them, so I'm thinking Florida. I'm going a lot of chalk here for the top half of this bracket.
Yeah, I'm a Tebow fan. I got to go Gators, man. Got to go Gators. Chomp, chomp. And we move on to the Tulsa part of the East bracket for the 11 versus 6 matchup, which the 11 seed will be Providence or USC. They have a play-in game that they're going to be doing, and they'll be taking on 29-4, number 6, SMU. I'm going Stangs all the way.
I have USC beating Providence and USC beating SMU.
I disagree.
I was going to say, absolute silence by that one. I can see this happening. SMU, I think, is going to be one of those teams that people might be high on. I heard someone on ESPN earlier this morning talking about how, it's the idea of, well, what team can win 6 games? And someone made might have just been an off-the-cuff bold prediction that SMU could win 6 in a row. I don't think they're going to get out of that opening gate. I think USC is going to beat Providence, and then the Trojans will go on to beat SMU.
I can't. Yeah, I have to firmly disagree with you. I watched a couple of SMU games. Man, they can get up and down the court. They can fly. They can jump. I mean, they literally had on, I believe, one of the highlight shows, the highlight reel was just SMU dunks from one game. So, I mean, I'm sorry, they're high flyers, they're athletic. I'm going with SMU in that one. Then we move on to Baylor, who's 25-7. They're number 3 seed versus New Mexico State, 28-5, 14 seed. We see New Mexico State quite often, for not a major conference school, mid-major, whatever you want to call them, is in the Tulsa bracket, Tulsa part of the bracket. And New Mexico State, they're there every year, but I just think Baylor's too good. And I got to go with Baylor in this one.
And this is kind of where the chalk for me comes in again. I've got Baylor winning this one. And if we want to jump ahead, I do have USC losing to Baylor into the next round, but we'll get to that later.
Yes, we will talk about our Elite 8 and Final 4 picks and championship picks coming up later. We'll kind of skip those middle rounds because, well, who knows about that. But then now we move to Greenville, part of the bracket, where number 10 Marquette, 19-12 on the year, takes on number 7 South Carolina, 22-10. Of course, South Carolina out of the SEC conference, a football conference. But I don't go with Marquette. Maybe it's the Wisconsin blood in me going with Marquette. I like Luke Fisher. He should have been a Badger. Went to Indiana, but then transferred to Marquette. I'm going with Marquette.
I've got the Golden Eagles as well in this one. I have Marquette winning as the 10 seed. Jumping down, I've got Duke winning, and then I have actually Marquette upsetting Duke.
Oh, wow, really? Oh, okay. So you talk about the Duke game, 27-8 versus the Troy Trojans, 22-14. Congratulations to Troy for making the tournament and getting blown out by 30. Duke will win that one pretty easily, I think. Now, if you want, we can finish off that bracket. Daryl, who do you have in your Elite 8 for the East part of your bracket?
Now, what I've got here is Villanova beating Virginia, Baylor beating Marquette. So Villanova and Baylor going to be in the Elite 8 in that one.
Okay. Yeah, I have Villanova beating Virginia. Yeah, and then I have SMU losing to Duke, and I have Villanova versus Duke in the East final. You could call it, I guess. Elite 8.
I end up actually in the Final Four have Baylor then beating Villanova to get to the Final Four.
And I have Villanova beating Duke. I really think Villanova is a solid team again this year. Do I think they can repeat? Well, we'll talk about that later. But they are a solid team. They really are. They don't struggle when you watch them play. They really do not struggle, and I really like that about them. 31-3 on the year. Haven't had a lot of trouble this year. We'll move on to the West bracket now, Daryl, where you have the best record in Division I basketball, Gonzaga, 32-1, taking on South Dakota State. I believe they're the Jackrabbits, 18-16 on the year. A 16 seed will not upset Gonzaga. Gonzaga wins easily.
Yeah, I think Gonzaga. The Bulldogs got themselves pretty well set. I mean, that's a really solid program that they've built there.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely see Gonzaga getting the victory in this round and moving on past it as well. But, yeah, they'll end up taking on the winner between Northwestern, another Big Ten team that we see here. I think the Big Ten had 6 teams?
I believe so.
But I think the highest or lowest seed, if you will, the best seed that they had was, I believe, a 6 seed, and that went to Maryland. So
Purdue had a 4, Minnesota had a 5. Yep.
But, yeah, you really look at it, Northwestern, Vanderbilt's going to be the next one. First time Northwestern has made the tournament in the 70-plus years.
And that's crazy.
And I'll tell you right now, I've got the Commodores, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the Wildcats, man. Mike Greenberg, I'm all about it. But
he doesn't play on the team, though.
Oh, remember when?
Actually, that may help them that he doesn't.
Remember when Gonzaga was a Cinderella team? Remember that?
Yeah.
That was like when we were in high school. Remember,
I was gonna say that,
about 10, 15 years ago, Gonzaga was a Cinderella team, and now they've become a constant in the NCAA tournament and a constant favorite as well in getting good seeds. And I got Gonzaga beating Northwestern in that game in Salt Lake City to go to the Sweet 16.
And I have Gonzaga over Vanderbilt in that one. So moving on with that, and you get down. You mentioned before the other half of that little bit of the division there as you get into the 5-12, Notre Dame and Princeton. And that's a game, again, where I said I had some upsets. That's Princeton. I've got them as the 12 over the number 5 Notre Dame.
Yeah, I do, too. I agree with you on that. I'm not sold on Notre Dame. I'm not a huge Notre Dame fan, but Princeton, great team. They ended up winning the Ivy League tournament, the first ever Ivy League conference tournament. And I really think they're going to carry that momentum in to Buffalo. And then I think they're going to go on in the second round and take on the Mountaineers of West Virginia, 26-8 on the year, taking on Bucknell, who's also 26-8. I just feel West Virginia is more athletic, and Bob Huggins, man, he's got that press, he's got the zone. I like what Bob Huggins does. I'm going with West Virginia over Bucknell.
And that's where I'm agreeing as well. West Virginia moving on in that one, and then I have the Mountaineers taking out Princeton to get their way into the Sweet 16.
And then we move on to the Orlando part of the bracket. In the West, it'd be Xavier, 21-13, taking on the Terrapins of Maryland, number 6 seed, 24-8. I'm going to go with Maryland there. I think maybe that's a Big Ten bias coming out in me, but I'm going with it because I like the way Maryland plays. Yeah, they struggled a little bit down the stretch, but I still think they're going to beat a Xavier team.
Yeah, I think Maryland has a lot of talent spread across that team. I know that a lot of it does seem to kind of go through Tremble, and that's going to be something that they're going to have to hopefully, if they want to advance, work on spreading around a bit more. But I think if they can get a consistent performance from him, they're definitely going to make some waves here in the tournament.
And then the next game in Orlando, 2 Florida teams. That's right. So both kind of have a home court advantage, if you may. Florida Gulf Coast, 26-7, and number 14 seed, and a number 3 seed, Florida State, 25-8. Of course, Florida Gulf Coast made some noise a couple years ago. Daryl, as a 15 seed, is making it to how far did they make it to? Elite 8, or was it the Sweet 16?
They were in
the Elite 8, weren't they?
Elite 8, because that was I actually had a chance to go down and see them compete.
Oh, that's right.
Because their regional final took place in Dallas in Arlington at Jerry World. And it was, Florida Gulf Coast. I believe they took on Kansas. And they lost in that one. And I know Michigan was also in that.
Okay.
And I don't remember who Michigan played, though, in that one. But I believe it was Michigan and Kansas. And that was when they had Nick Stauskas still on the Wolverines. So,
yep.
I mean, and he was a guy that he got to the corner and just set up. And they, would whatever play they were running on the other side of the court was just a distraction, and he would be sitting there just wide open, and he passed him, and he could just drain him. I mean, he could set up a bar stool for him there, and he would just hit those shots. But Yeah, so I as much as it would be nice to see Florida Gulf Coast, I'll be interested to see that game, but I still think the Seminoles will win.
I disagree. I'm going with the Eagles or Dunk City, Florida, whatever you want to call it. I am going with Florida Gulf Coast. I love it. It's an upset.
Well,
And you know how much I love being upset.
You love being upset all the time. Well, speaking of upset, St. Mary's VCU. I'm going with VCU on this one.
Yeah.
In the 7-10 matchup, and you can call it an upset if you want, but at this point, 7-10, the 8-9,
Pretty even.
Yeah, I always call those kind of the coin toss matchups, but in this one, I've got VCU getting the victory.
Yeah, I do too. VCU, they're there every year. I mean, St. Mary's is back and forth between the NIT and the NCAA, but it just seems like VCU is a constant when it comes to the NCAA tournament now, and I really like them. No Shaka, obviously, there, but VCU still my pick in that one. Then you go to Arizona versus North Dakota, and it'd be nice. It'd be nice to see North Dakota win, but that's not going to happen. I think Arizona's playing too well right now for that to happen. The game will be in Salt Lake City. And then I'm going to take Arizona over VCU.
We got a lot in common with that one. Yeah, I have the Wildcats beating North Dakota, Arizona moving on past VCU. I think when we did one of our earlier shows back in the fall at the start of the college basketball season, Arizona was one of the teams I had said would be put in the Final Four bracket. And I'll tell you right now, spoiler alert, they're still showing up in my Final Four.
Arizona was one I liked as well. We spoke of Kansas and Kentucky as well. I remember having that conversation. Mike Hoosier joined us for that episode of Disagree to Disagree. And I have Florida Gulf Coast beating Maryland.
And I have the other way of Maryland beating Florida State for that one.
So, and then I have Arizona defeating Florida Gulf Coast, and Arizona versus Gonzaga in the West Final, and then I have Gonzaga defeating Princeton in the West, and then Gonzaga defeating Arizona in the West Final to go to the Final Four.
And see, I'm just on the other side of that. I've got Arizona winning, advancing to the Final Four, but I have Arizona beating West Virginia. I think West Virginia will kick out the Bulldogs of Gonzaga before they get to the Elite Eight.
Well, alrighty then.
I think in all the years that they've been in the tournament, I want to say that Gonzaga has only been in the Elite Eight twice. I think in '99 and 2013. So they really have not had deep runs.
This is their year. I'm calling it.
Okay, you can call it all you want.
You're wrong.
I can call you when you're wrong.
I will not answer.
We go up to voicemail.
We go up to the upper right corner, the Midwest bracket, which is the finals will be in Kansas City. Sweet 16 and Elite 8 will be in Kansas City. And how sweet would that be for Kansas, right? It's set up perfectly for them to play in Kansas City. I honestly don't think there's a better location for Kansas to get to the Final Four being in Kansas City. It's the best one out of all of them, even though Villanova got the number 1 overall seed. And New York's not that far from, Villanova's area, but still, I think the Kansas City one for Kansas is just, it's a match made in heaven, is it not?
Well, and at being the number 1 seed, I think that they're going to have a fairly, I don't want to say easy coast, but I think they're going to get their way down to the, I think they get down to the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
That's as far as I'm going to go on that one. But
out of number 1 seeds, I think they do have the easiest go of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, when looking at the two that they could possibly fit, I want to say that, that would make sense for me. I've got Kansas, winning in their matchup against whichever the 16s.
North Carolina Central or UC Davis. Yeah. Does not matter. Kansas will win.
Down next with the 8-9 Miami of Florida versus Michigan State. I've got the Spartans winning.
Yep.
I think that's one of those coin toss things where it's the feeling that I have a hard time believing Tom Izzo is going to be a one and done in the tournament.
Yeah, and when it comes to an 8-9 matchup like that, and two teams very close in record and everything like that, you got to go with coaching, and obviously Michigan State Way better coaching Tom Izzo. I'll go with Michigan State in that one as well. And we move on to Milwaukee area. Is where the next two games would be played for the Iowa State Cyclones, 23-10, taking on Nevada, 28-6. I like Iowa State. That's part Wisconsin bias because they got Matt Thomas, who played high school ball at Onalaska. So I'm going to go with Iowa State. But I do think Iowa State is the better team in this matchup, so I think they're going to defeat Nevada.
This is another one where I've got the 12 upsetting the 5. I think Nevada's got the is going to be the upset pick. And, maybe part of it is that bias because years and years ago when Marcus Fizer was playing for Iowa State, I had them winning it all, and they got beat as a...
Jamal Tinsley, too.
Yeah, they were upset by Hampton as a number 15 seed way back in the day. So, but I still think in the grand scheme of things, I've got Nevada winning this one, swinging down to Purdue and Vermont. Again, the highest seeded Big Ten team. Purdue, I've got the Boilermakers getting the victory here over Vermont. You had mentioned that that these matchups here, the Iowa State, Nevada, Purdue, Vermont, they're all playing at Milwaukee. And actually, a story came across today that coming up on Wednesday, March 15th, they'll actually have the BMO Harris Bradley Center open, I think, starting at noon.
Mm-hmm.
And people can come in and basically watch. They've got like 45-minute blocks set up for each team for their shoot-arounds practice.
Cool.
So that's an open event if people in the Milwaukee area want to check that out on Wednesday. If spring break or playing hooky for a day, whatever.
Everybody will be playing hooky on Thursday and Friday, Daryl.
That's true.
And I'm taking Vermont. The Catamounts. I like them. I like the Catamounts. And Purdue, I don't know. They've been okay all year. They don't really blow me away. But Vermont, I like them. 29-5, 13 seed upset. You got to pick upsets somewhere. So, I'll take Vermont.
Well, and that's where I took the upset right above that with Nevada. But I've got Purdue beating Nevada and also Kansas beating Michigan State.
Yeah.
So the Jayhawks and Boilermakers meeting up for a chance to go to the Elite Eight. Lower half of that bracket, the 6-11 matchup, Creighton and Rhode Island. I think Creighton's got a fantastic program going there. They've had some quality wins. I'm going to go with Creighton on that one.
So am I. I agree with you on that one. They're just playing well this year, and they got a great coach.
You've got Oregon, Iona, the 3-14 matchup. I've got the Ducks winning there, and then the Ducks taking out Creighton to move on to the Sweet 16 round.
Quack, quack. That's the same. I got Creighton versus Oregon, and Oregon beating Creighton as well.
The two quacks probably mean win-win. So,
you go down to Michigan versus Oklahoma State. Michigan's hot right now. They really are. They finished the season strong, and the Big Ten tournament, 4 games, 4 days, even after having the plane crash or whatever you want to call it.
Plane mishap.
Yeah, but I'm taking Michigan in that one. I really like the Wolverines in that.
Yeah, I think that's going to carry over for them in the opening round. I'll take the Wolverines in this one. Moving into the next round, it'll either be Louisville or Jacksonville State. I've got Louisville winning there. I think when Michigan finally kind of hits that wall, I think is against Louisville, and that'll be the end of the run for the Wolverines with Louisville advancing.
And I got Louisville over Jacksonville State as well, but congratulations, Jacksonville State. It is their first appearance in the NCAA tournament. I disagree. I'm taking Michigan over Louisville, then Michigan over Oregon, and Michigan taking on Kansas in the Midwest final Elite Eight, but I got Kansas beating Michigan.
Well, I'm going the exact opposite of you. I've got Louisville beating Michigan, Louisville beating Oregon, Kansas over Purdue. So you've got Kansas-Louisville matchup, but I actually have Louisville making it to the Final Four in that one.
Oof. I don't know. Rick Pitino. It's a good one, but I'm a Bill Self kind of guy, and I like Kansas. I like the Jayhawks. Rock Chalk Jayhawks.
Like I said, I think that's where Louisville and the Papa Wallowitz will get it done.
Move down to the South bracket. North Carolina. Raise up, take your shirt off, twist around your head like a helicopter. We'll take on Texas Southern. And, North Carolina is going to win that one pretty handedly.
Yeah, I think UNC doesn't have a whole lot of issues, at least in the first couple rounds of this one. I've got Carolina winning.
But in my opinion, this is a 1 seed I would like to see lose. I don't like Roy Williams. I like North Carolina, respect the program. I do not like Roy Williams. And this is a number 1 seed I wouldn't mind losing. But that's because this is the only 1 seed I don't have in the Final Four.
And again, where we are completely opposite, but we'll get to that as we go through the rest of it. I've got North Carolina advancing. I take Seton Hall over Arkansas. It's hard for me to...
You might as well flip a quarter. I mean, honestly, and just
yeah,
that's what it is.
It's hard for me to put a lot of stock into a lot with Arkansas just because of the fact that the whole SEC basketball conference, there's not a whole lot outside of the top of that.
I took Arkansas in a coin flip kind of thing. That's about all I could do with that one. And then you move on to Minnesota versus Middle Tennessee State. I was reading something about they were saying the fourth best team in the South bracket is Middle Tennessee State. I was reading an article on that, which makes sense. I mean, you got North Carolina, you got Kentucky, you got UCLA, and after that, it kind of drops off. It really does. I mean, they all kind of mesh together. But I like Middle Tennessee State over Minnesota, which I don't think is deserving of a 5 seed as well. But that's that 12-5 matchup where those teams are pretty much even. But I'm going to go Middle Tennessee State, and I think they win pretty easily. I don't think Minnesota is that great of a team this year. So, yeah, Middle Tennessee State.
I ended up going Minnesota on this one. I feel there's... I split it, 2 12s and 2 5s, but it wasn't necessarily that. I don't even look at that until afterwards. I basically go through on a Sunday night, and I will just kind of go gut reaction, not thinking about, I'm like, okay, this will happen, this will happen, this will happen, okay. But I've got the Golden Gophers in this one.
I go based on jerseys.
But I feel that at least in this opening round for Minnesota, I feel that when you look at it, it's going to come down. They're going to play hard. Both teams are definitely going to play hard. But when you get to that stretch towards the end, where I think the bench will play a bigger part into it, I think Minnesota's got a little bit more talent on the depth, and that's what I think puts them over the edge. It's still going to be a good matchup. I don't foresee either side blowing out the other, but I have the Golden Gophers moving on.
Then we go to Butler Winthrop. I'm going to go with Winthrop. It's another upset I'm taking. The Eagles.
I see, again, in a field like this where there seems to be, as you said, a lot of, even teams, I'm still going higher seed on this one. I've got Butler winning, and then Butler beating Minnesota. So Butler and North Carolina meeting in a Sweet 16 matchup.
And you got Kansas State versus Wake Forest in the play-in game. And I'm going to go with Wake Forest in that one.
Yeah, I took Wake in that one as well, but still had Cincinnati beating Wake.
Yep, Cincinnati to win as well. And then you move to UCLA versus Kent State. UCLA has been playing pretty good as of late. Of course, they end up losing to Arizona in the Pac-12 Conference Championship. But I'm going to take UCLA over Kent State in that one.
I've got UCLA as well. Yeah, UCLA beating Kent State, then UCLA taking out Cincinnati to go to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I have that as well. Then you have Dayton versus Wichita State. Dayton not getting a play-in game at Dayton. That is bull crap. They should be playing a play-in game at Dayton, right? Get that home court advantage. But I'm going to go Wichita State. Shockers, baby.
I've got Wichita State, and as a shocker, I have Wichita State winning again at taking Kentucky out of the tournament.
Gosh, no. Come on now.
That is going to be one of my major ones, is Wichita State.
That would be a huge upset.
Taking out Kentucky.
And it'd make me extremely upset because I have Kentucky in the Final Four. Because I think the Wildcats, you got Calipari, and the Wildcats are a team that get better as the year go on. Every year. It's just because they're young guys learning the game, and then once they get towards the end of the season, they're learning, they love it, they're great. So I got Kentucky over Wichita State, Kentucky over UCLA, and Kentucky over North Carolina.
I've got UCLA beating Wichita State, then North Carolina over Butler, North Carolina over UCLA. So North Carolina facing Louisville in one half of the Final Four, Baylor, Arizona in the other half of the Final Four.
I have Kentucky taking on Kansas in the right half of the Final Four, and in the left half, I have Villanova versus Gonzaga. Now, I could easily replace Arizona with Gonzaga or UCLA with Kentucky, but my Villanova, Kansas, those are my solid picks for the Final Four. The Gonzaga and Kentucky, like I said, I could go Arizona or UCLA in that spot as well, but I went Kentucky, Kansas, Villanova, Gonzaga. And in the finals, I have Villanova versus Kansas and Rock Chalk Jayhawks 89-84.
I've got Arizona beating North Carolina for the title. Arizona a 72-68 winner.
I wouldn't be upset with that. I mean, although you picked Arizona, I would be upset about that. But I do like the Wildcats. I was a big Wildcat fan back in the day. Mike Bibby, Miles Simon.
And as we said, back in the fall, that was a team I definitely said to keep an eye on, and I think that just given the fact that where they play in the Pac-12, not being in that kind of California West Coast media, they flew under the radar for a lot of the year. And I think when teams start to see them, when they start getting into those final, 2 rounds, and that's going to be primetime spotlight, I think a lot of people are going to see more about the Wildcats of Arizona than they have all year, and that's going to be people are going to be rethinking their brackets come the later part of March when they realize that Arizona, yes, is that good.
Recap for you. NIT, I got Syracuse winning it all. Women's bracket, I take UConn. Daryl takes the field. And then and then on the NCAAs, the Kansas Jayhawks winning it. Daryl, NIT bracket, who's going to win it all? Not the Hawkeyes. Good call.
Yeah, just not Iowa. How about that?
And to girls bracket, he's got UConn. Shocker. And then in the NCAAs, he has Zona Wildcats.
That's right. Arizona beating North Carolina. Man, I love this time. You know the best part about this time of year? The fact that now when I look outside, that at 7:15, 7:30, the sun is still kind of up.
Yeah, no, that is a great part of this year. And coming up Thursday, Friday, tonight, tomorrow night, you're going to have basketball. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, basketball. Man, what a great time of year it is. And obviously, if you're in Wisconsin, they do have the high school state boys basketball tournament, which I like watching as well. I watch the girls tournament as well. I'm a firm supporter of athletics, and I do enjoy watching the state basketball tournaments on TV here in Southwest Wisconsin, where they broadcast them on WKOW. It's just a great time of year. I remember back in high school, I used to take school off. I mean, I would call in, my mom would call me in sick, and all the teachers knew, but they didn't do anything about it because my mom would call me in sick. What can you do? You can't call my mom a liar, I can, but you can't. And I had one teacher, a math teacher, John Hopkins, in high school. I used to help him fill out his bracket, and he won 2 years in a row. So I never saw any of that money that he won, but he did win. Yeah, and I take all the credit for it.
Yeah, and that's someone, I think it was The Onion, had an article headline that stated surprisingly low number of college basketball brackets being copied due to mass amounts of layoffs across country. Well, they're all going online anyway. But I still enjoy. I am the kind of guy who will print off a bracket.
Oh, yeah.
And I will do it by hand.
And I love that, going across the paper. You get the pencil or pen all over your hand. It just brings back memories. And it's a great thing. I love filling out just a paper bracket as well. And you got to cut down trees, because if you cut down trees, it's good for our environment. It's good for jobs. If we want to create jobs, if we stop cutting down trees and use recycled paper, well, that takes away a lot of jobs, in my opinion.
I was mostly going to say, so then come April 3rd, when my bracket is completely crap, I can just throw it into a fire.
Yeah, crumple it up and throw it.
It's a lot cheaper to burn a piece of paper than let a monitor on fire.
It is a lot cheaper. Well, good, Daryl, it's been great here doing a bracketology expert pick, I guess you could call it. We're expert. We'll call ourselves experts. I don't care.
I call myself a fan who may get lucky.
Well, Daryl, I'm going to tell you what. Your bracket, that's not my bracket. Be careful when you're warming up food in your microwave. You never know who's watching you.
Are you watching me?
My microwave always knows what I'm having to eat. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Bracketology, Disagree to Disagree podcast. Daryl Fisher, Brad Collins here. Brought to you by 1UP USA, 1UP-USA.com. They got new swag on there, new apparel. Check it out. Hats. They got coolers. They got mugs. They got socks, the shirts, everything you want. They got it. And also your bike trainers, also bike racks. Great product, American-made, 100%, right in Dickeyville, Wisconsin. How about that? A local product here in Southwest Wisconsin. Daryl, any final thoughts?
I just want to say to the parents of that kid from UCLA and his two younger brothers in high school.
Oh, the Ball?
The Ball family there. Yeah, buddy. I think he's riding off the Trump style, where I'm just gonna make an outlandish statement and people are gonna pay attention to me.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, he is the winner because he just gets to be the hype man and can make the money. And if the kids fail miserably, he'd be like, well, it was them on the court, not me.
Yeah, he wants them to have $1 billion contract. He said, I could have taken Michael Jordan back in my day. And Le'Veon Bell posted something on Twitter today about how back in 1988, this Ball played at Washington State. He averaged 2 points a game. And then he stated, and in that same year, 1988, Michael Jordan averaged 35 points a game with the Bulls. He said, good luck.
Once again, that's why I didn't want to mention him too much, because he's not worth the 2 minutes we just gave him. And that was free.
All right, Daryl, my final thought is it's about damn time, Chicago Bears. That's all I'm going to say. You know what I'm getting at. I think everybody who knows me knows what I'm getting at.
Put in Cut and Cutler.
Yes. Oh, we gave Mike Glennon too much. I don't care. We were paying Cutler too much. I don't think it's a downgrade. Sorry, I digress. Anyways, Daryl, it was great talking with you again here on Disagree to Disagree. Yeah, a lot of fun. Check out our brackets. Make sure you get in our league. It's the Disagree to Disagree League. And then password Disagree, capital D. It's on Yahoo. It's on our Facebook page, and we'll share it again. And then, so it's been a great time here on Disagree to Disagree.